In 2007, on April 17th, April Sorensen, there was an incident. Can you explain what happened with that?
Well, initially the call that day came out as a structure fire. There was a cable TV repairman that had showed up at April's residence for a scheduled appointment.
Okay.
And when he arrived, he walked up to the residence and noticed that the front door was open, but the storm door was closed. You know, the glass storm door. The front door behind that was open, and he could see into the residence, and he could hear the fire alarm going off, and could see, you know, a smoke in the residence.
Okay.
So the call came out as a structure fire, and you know, fire department responded. That area, you know, is kind of a busy street for a residential neighborhood. There's a bus route and whatnot. So
she was quite young. This happened 10 years ago. What is the status of the case?
The case is still open and active.
Okay. Is it called a cold case because there's not really anything happening?
You know, I don't like the term.
Okay.
Especially when,
let's educate
people. We do have people that are that we do have an investigator sign the case. There are still avenues of follow-up. We have meetings, not weekly, but we meet a few times a year to discuss the case as a group, supervisors, investigators, others trying to look at different avenues. But you know, the fact that it is 10 years old, yeah, I mean, no one has been charged.
Right.
It would meet that definition of cold case, you know, of a cold case. We don't have, we have a number of people of interest, but we don't have any evidence where we can make an arrest. I was actually working that day. I was a patrol sergeant at the time.
Does that mean you're on the streets then?
And I was on the street,
okay.
Yeah, in uniform, patrol sergeant, and I heard the call, and at one point I heard one of the firefighters on their channel indicate that they had a fatality inside, and I thought, you know, anytime we have a fire death, no matter the circumstance, it's obviously a crime scene until you can rule otherwise. So I, as a patrol supervisor, I responded to the scene at that time, and could tell that, you know, it was not. It was certainly a suspicious death. Appeared to be
isolated.
Appeared to be a homicide.
Okay. And the fire was isolated, right?
Fire was isolated to one room, where April's body was located, and so at that point we you know, realized it was a crime scene and called in our investigators. The county coroner at the time responded, and then the investigation began.
Okay. And so when the investigation begins, you have to identify suspects and things like that. And from what I understand, you ruled out the husband.
Yeah. You know, he was at work.
Okay.
And that was readily apparent from the investigation. The husband is not a suspect.
Right.
He's not a person of interest in this case. You know,
because immediately people think, okay, the spouse.
Well, you know, those are typically, you know, you have to rule those people out.
Right. Immediate family members and things like that.
I made contact with the fire.
So what happens? Does nobody go in, or do they go in and they?
Well, the firefighters are inside putting out the fire.
Okay.
And I talked to the fire commander, the battalion chief at the scene, and he had indicated to me that, you know, they had a fatality in a bedroom. The fire was out, but they didn't do a complete overhaul because they were treating it as a crime scene as well. But obviously, anytime you have a fire, you have water, you have evidence destroyed because of the fire itself.
And they couldn't tell right away what gender or anything, or
oh no, I mean
circumstances of her. Did someone assault her?
Yeah, April was assaulted, both physically and with a weapon.
Okay.
She was stabbed.
Oh my gosh.
A number of times, and you know, so she was killed in a violent manner, and you know, anytime you have intimate contact with someone, hand to hand, an assault, there's going to be evidence. However, in this case, you know, there was a fire, a hot fire.
And that covered everything up, basically, or?
Well, you know, we have some limited forensic evidence
Okay.
that has been recovered, but analysis of that evidence has not been able to point us in the direction of any one suspect.
Do they think it's someone local or someone that just kind of went through town, or?
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. I mean, we've had a number of persons of interest that have been identified through the years that we've spent a considerable amount of time either talking to, looking into circumstances of their life at the time of that incident, and we've been yet to make an arrest. So,
Okay.
you know, it just depends. You know, we don't know if it's someone passing through or if it was someone local. The thing that we do know is that no one that was present in the neighborhood that day, and there were a number of neighbors and residents who were home, no one saw anything out of the
Wow.
ordinary. You know, there have been hundreds of people interviewed for this case.
Okay.
There are thousands of pages of written reports. There are hundreds of hours of statements given by individuals, and we're no closer to solving this case.
What can the community do to help on her 10-year anniversary to support the RPD in its efforts? Can we, you know, reignite this case at all, or?
I think the one hope that we have anytime there's a follow-up story done on this, you know, on this case in particular, is that if somebody has knowledge of this case or a suspicion, and that they need to let us know.
Mm-hmm.
We follow up every lead. We've had some strange leads. We've had people that have had dreams. We've had people that have heard from psychics.
Right.
I mean, you really get
Everything.
everything, but that doesn't mean we're not going to look into it.
Okay.
And, you know, in this case in particular, time may be able to help in a way if someone has knowledge of this, because circumstances in life change.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships change. You know, somebody may not have been comfortable sharing information at the time on a relative or another, you know, but we're hoping if people have that knowledge or that information or that suspicion, that they let us know.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything helpful that you can share about the circumstances or anything like that that could be helpful to the community to lead information?
Well, at the time of the, you know, in the weeks after the investigation, or days after the initial start of the investigation, the days after April's murder, we asked for people that may have had information on someone that had burns on their hands, or their body unexplained, people who may have had a knowledge about the case that hadn't been released.
What happens next as far as, we'll put this out, I'll talk about it on KROC, but I'm thinking of what's a proactive way to encourage the community or whoever's listening right now, that if they know anything, to get a hold of you guys. What's the best route to do that?
Well, I mean, I think that you know, certainly people can remain anonymous, and that's you know, one of the good things about Crime Stoppers. We utilize Crime Stoppers. They can call our Crime Stoppers number, 1-800-222-TIPS. Remain anonymous. If not, they can contact the police department directly. If they want to speak with an investigator, come in. You know, 328-6800.
Will there be consequences for this person if they? No consequences.
No.
So all they got to do is share information if they have anything.
Absolutely.
And it could help solve this case.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take anything. We'll investigate any leads, any follow-up. You know, there's always hope that you're going to solve a case. There's no statute of limitations for murder.
Oh, wow.
And
so anybody can be charged at any point, no statute of limitation.
Yep. So, you know, it's certainly, there are people that have invested a considerable amount of their life here into solving April's death. And
is there a group involved trying to help with a reward or anything like that?
There's right now there's a $25,000 reward that the city has.
Oh, the city put that out, huh? Wow.
We have we've had other agencies review our work on this case.
Wow, okay.
You know, law enforcement agencies that have reviewed our work, and you know, it's not. I think we have good investigators.
Mm-hmm.
We have good people working on this case. Yet we still haven't solved it. And you know, that's part of the frustration.
Right.
But you need evidence. You need proof, and it's not like you cannot arrest somebody just because you think they did it.
Mm-hmm. You have to have.
If that was the case, I can tell you in this case we would have made an arrest.
Okay.
But you know, you need proof,
Mm-hmm.
and unless we have that proof, it's not, the case remains unsolved, and we have work to do.
Okay. Was the family from town, Sorensen?
No, they're from near Albert Lee,
Okay.
and the family is, her parents are still living near Albert Lee, and you know, it's a very close family. You know, they hold every year since her death, they've held a half marathon.
Okay.
April was a runner that is in the Albert Lee area. This year is the 10th running of that, and it's the final year.